We're just laughing because I just said, oh, shoot, as we went live. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this Tuesday's Wellness for the Busy Women in Business. And why did I say, oh, shoot, as we were coming on? Is because I usually like to play our little intro. The intro is so cool. And I was like, oh, shoot, I forgot to put the intro. But you know what? The intro is just fluff. It is just fluff in the air, like we see going on with, well, at least here in Canada, allergy season. You see all the, the pollen in the air. It's just pollen in the air. What still happens is life. We still are here. We're still present, and we are excited to get going on this continuation on our series all about the wellness for busy women in business. And we are going to talk about that mindset and having that power of a positive attitude and how it truly does allow us to overcome so many obstacles that we once thought we couldn't do in the past. But now that we have a better understanding of our wellness, we know our triggers, we are aware of them. We also are aware more of the feeling that trigger brings on. And the most important part of wellness and having that mindset and understanding the power of a positive attitude is understanding and knowing how fast to transition to redirect that unwanted feeling so that we could realign and get right back on track on where we need to be in life. Because a lot of times we are on a mission to do what we know we are destined to do. We're going. Boom, life happens, a roadblock. And many of times that's the roadblock that says, you know what, I guess it wasn't meant for me. But in actuality, it's just another test in this thing called life. And it's not a bad test. It's about preparation for us to get to that next level, that next step. We need to continuously change our environment, change our mindset, evolve our mindset to that current journey in that space. So in order for us to change our mindset, we need to have these challenges in life. It's what builds up our character. It builds up our tenacity. And most importantly, it really does get us even more excited for the journey ahead. So my name is Camille Jones. I am the founder of We Got This Mind and Body, where I'm all about teaching women to learn to prioritize living a healthier lifestyle. And that is even greater than fitness and nutrition. It's truly about understanding that wellness is all about your mind, body, soul, spirit, and business. But we need to start taking that action on ourselves before we could even really truly get the essence of wellness and enjoy all the other areas of it. So with that being said, we are going to get excited, get going on this conversation. But first, let me throw the mic over to my co-host, my partner in wellness crime, Miss Mary Massey. Let's go.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Today's topic is an important one because I have stories for you. And I'm sure you've all been in the situation where you found yourself completely overwhelmed, and it can be really exhausting to try to get yourself out of that space. So today we're going to give you a bunch of tips like we usually do. So while you're here, go ahead and share this video with your contacts, share it on your feed, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, wherever you're watching from, because there are going to be some very useful tools. Now, my name is Mary. I'm in New Jersey. I'm a personal growth strategist and social media coach. And this topic to me is important because I've experienced burnout because of overwhelm, and not understanding the signs is what got me there. Also, not understanding certain aspects of my personality and how I was interacting with people, that really, really hurt me. So I've learned my lesson. And like Camille said, the only way sometimes to get past things is to go through things and to develop that grit and resilience. So that's what we're going to be talking to you about today. So if you've ever experienced that, or maybe currently you're feeling a little overwhelmed and stuck and unmotivated, then definitely let us know. If you see us looking down, I'm looking at the phone here, I'm looking at the side on the chat. If you have any questions for us, if you have any comments, just pop them in because we are monitoring everything. So I'm ready to get started, Camille.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. So if you're live, if you're watching here live or on the replay, we always love to hear where you're from. It gets us really excited because it's really cool how technology truly now has connected us on a global basis, especially after that, situation we all went through. We don't say that P word anymore, right? So it's amazing how we get to know each other more. So If you're listening live or if you're on the replay, definitely drop in where you are chatting in from. And we love our lives to be very interactive. So if you have some great information, a takeaway, a question, please feel free to put it into the chat. Mary is monitoring the chat and we'll be sure to answer it, because the best way that we could learn together is when we participate as a collective. Of course, we could do it on our own. We could read the books, listen to the audibles, do our woo-has and hee-has, all that we want. But it's not as exciting when you're doing it alone. And so again, that whole thing, that D word, that thing called distraction. We all have that distraction bug in us.
Mhm.
Is because we're constantly inundated with so much information and life. I don't know about you, Mary, but life happens continuously, and I find it gets spicier as we get older. It's different circumstances, different situations, but it's constantly in motion. And that's why for myself, especially being, both of you and I are in the 40/40 club. And the biggest thing I've learned since I've entered into this club is the less care, or F's as we say now, I'm giving on a lot of things, but especially other people's opinions, the more freeing I'm becoming.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of people say, oh, you must be getting that because of age and, all the things that you went through. But in actuality, a lot of my clients are in my age demographic, and they feel the opposite. They're
Yeah.
feeling like I'm 40 something years old. My life should have been like this. Why is this not happening to me? I have this extra blob here. Everything is negative that's happening to them. They're thinking about going back into their past, saying, oh, man, I shoulda, coulda, woulda when I was 20, because if I did that, I would have been here at this age. Oh, I
Mhm.
would have. We tend to dwell so much on the things that we shoulda, coulda, woulda had in our later stages of age that
Mhm.
we forget about the beautiful blooming this age brings. The freedom it brings because of the so much times that we cared in the past on situations. The one thing I think about, Mary, is I think about something that used to stress me about other people's opinions, especially when I changed my employment. And this was about 15 years ago. It took me a good 3 years to change that employment because I was so scared about other people's opinions. And
Mhm.
now, when I look back at all of that, I say thank you to myself for finally taking that plunge, even if it took that 3 years. I'm not looking at that, oh God, it took 3 years. No, thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
because I've made that transition. And I'm not looking at the how long it took in the past anymore. I'm getting excited for the more that I'm growing in the now, for the wonder that's going to build for the future. And it does start off with that positive attitude and thinking, I think I can, I
Mhm.
think I can, I think I can, and I will. So what say you, Mary?
Yeah, I think it's all about being solution driven rather than problem driven, because we see that a lot too. And one of the reasons I believe that people have a negative mindset is because they don't know how to deal with their issues. They don't know how to deal with their problems. They think about the problem too much and they sink into that, and they go into that downward spiral where they can't see the light anymore. Seeing even a little bit of light means that you're heading toward the light, that the light is going to get brighter. And for me, even yesterday, like, I'm just going to share very quickly because I woke up feeling completely overwhelmed and anxious yesterday. I woke up super early at 5:30 in the morning, and this is after going to bed late. And as soon as I was conscious, I found myself not going into the mindset that I normally go into, which is thank you, Father, thank you, God, for another day. I'm grateful for another day. Instead, I was like, oh, I got to do this and this and this and this and this. So I
Mhm.
was thinking about all the things that I needed to do. Plus, I have some family issues going on. And immediately, my sleep went away, my peace went away, and I didn't realize it. I was just kind of like operating and trying to really deal with it as best as I could on my own. And I knew what was going on. I knew exactly why I felt the way that I did, but I was like pushing through. And I had a long list of things. I had meetings. I had the Zoom with our mom link ladies also. And then I said, you know what? I think I'm just going to take the day. I'm going to do what I need to do in the morning, and I'm going to take the day. And thankfully, I have a great supportive community that was just like, "Psh, go for it, just do you." But we have to also think about the fact that, yes, a lot of the things that come up are because of some problems that we might have. We might not be managing our time properly. We might be saying yes to too many things. we might be thinking too much about the problem and not the solution, as opposed to putting the foot forward. Because if you get stuck in that mindset of, oh, poor me, poor this, or I can't believe this is happening, or all of these things, it's very easy to stay in that space, because negativity will invite more negativity. And that's the way it is. And it's a lot easier to look at the bad than to look at the good. Because if it were the other way around, the news outlets will go out of business. Everything is all about negativity, negativity. And that's how that invites you in. So be very mindful. If you want to cultivate a positive mindset, be very conscientious of the way that you are thinking and what brings you to that. And also what happens after those thoughts. Are you coming to terms with it? Are you acknowledging the fact that maybe you're tired, you're overworked, you are hungry, you're upset, you're emotional, whatever? Are you coming to terms with that and then doing something about it? Right? So what is the redirect that has to happen there? Do you have to take a nap? Do you have to talk to somebody? Do you have to call your therapist? Do you need to exercise? What is it that you need to do in order to redirect yourself if you don't want to stay in that space? Now, there are people who love to stay in that space, but I never hang out with those people. So I'm all about like finding the solutions, and the solution to not feeling so good is doing something about the reason why you're not feeling so good.
Absolutely. And I'm always tardy for the party, so excuse what I'm doing right now. What I would like to do is I'm actually going to go on my Instagram live so that everybody as well can also hear us on this live, because I feel like this, not even I feel, this is a great conversation. And anybody, while I'm doing this, anybody that's listening live, put a 1 in the chat if you do have a morning routine or understand the power of a morning routine. Love to see. And yeah, there, hold on, just put this live. Excuse me here. It's not about being perfect to start. It's about just starting to become perfect. And that is just by showing up, even if it's not perfect, like showing up 15 minutes before you remember that you're supposed to be live on Instagram. So if you see me going here and you see me going over there, it's because I'm talking to both streams. But what I really wanted to talk about, Mary, was that whole, yes, Tiffany, there's power in the morning routine. And when my morning routine is disarrayed, it does set that tone. But I also learned too that in this morning routine, it's just like life, it transitions. It needs to be modified too, as well, for that current space in that journey. Because one practice I used to have in my morning routine, I started to become accustomed to it. It started to become too comfortable, where I was taking it for granted, just as we mostly do when we're in our comfort zone. We're just hanging out, not even paying attention to anything else around us because we're so comfortable. So that's where I said to myself, you know what? I really need to get back into source, into me, and to do some more even deeper breathing and understanding, because life does happen. So I also have changed, and I've been working on learning about some different routines that I do now in the morning. And it's even as much as sitting in my bed for about 15 minutes doing deep breathing. Deep breathing and counting down from 100. And why I do deep breathing, counting down to 100, is because, and it's just as I'm waking up. So I'm up, but I'm not really up. Now, the power of doing that is that by the time I get down to 1, I'm putting myself back into what I call a somewhat alpha state. And when you put yourself into a form of alpha state, you're able to really open up your mind, really get into that feeling of that present moment, or really set that tone for the day. So that's just a little tip I have for y'all, is if you could really take that time to take that breath. But also what Mary's saying is life does happen. Sometimes we're going to get a wrench put right out. I may only get to 49. Boop. Somebody disrupt the flow. But that's how it is. That's how life is. And I love Tyshawn had actually written on Tyshawn Phillips. She's another one of the amazing women here on LinkedIn. She has a post this morning talking about, or last night, about a do not disturb and someone trying to get a hold of her, and someone saying, it could have been an emergency. And then she writing, well, they call the police.
Yeah.
I'm no longer going to be offended by my lack of availability. Meaning, it's not that she's not available. It's okay to have a DND moment in life, just like Mary. Mary needed to step back because she was aware right out the gates from that morning routine that was already disarray, because she already knows the trigger of how her day is set. She saw that there was a wrench that was happening. So first thing in the morning is, what did she do? She connected with her tribe. And that's why it's so important that you have an environment that nourishes and nurtures your well-being and understands the flow of life. Right away, boom, she went to her community, and we're like, we got you. Go and relax, girl. DND. And it's important because we also understand that the power of having that positive attitude, but also knowing when that positive attitude is coming with so much resistance that we need to rest, reset, and release so that we can realign. That's wellness for you. And
Yeah.
these are practices that both Mary and myself teach our own clients, as well as we are still our own students in our own lives as well. And it's such a blessing. Hey, from Nigeria, that's awesome. It is such a blessing for us to be able to continuously learn and grow through life's experiences. And one other thing that you said that really got me is I'm reading this book called The Power of One More.
Yep.
Great book. Love,
Hmm.
love, love this book. And when you were talking about the triggers, and we were talking about the triggers, we have to think about it exactly what I said. There's three things that allow us to change our habits in life. It is the trigger, which is that self-awareness. What is that trigger that's triggering this present situation in life?
Hmm.
What are the action steps are we
Right.
going to take? Just like Mary said, now that we know that we are in a boat that has a hole that we're not really filling, what actionable steps are we going to take to fill that hole? Or are we just going
Mhm.
to allow the water to come into a boat and sink it? Right? And when we
Right.
do that, when we create the actionable step, boom, here comes the prize. And that's what everybody, the problem is so many people will start at one and jump to three. They're going to look
Mhm.
at the prize, the reward of that water being out of that boat so that you can still float. That even goes with wellness. So many people are so caught up on the outcome of what it's going to look like. I mean, or them getting that 30 pounds off, that they're not celebrating the journey, and the true confidence comes through the experiences you have in your journey, not the end result. That's just the painting that we've pictured it, that we've painted, the picture we've already painted in our mind.
Hmm.
Off
Hmm.
to you, Mary.
Yeah. That's right. So Tiffany wants to know what DND is. Do not disturb. It's what the phone on the
Yes.
iPhone, you put it on DND, do not disturb. So that's what that means, because it's important to do that. I do that a lot actually, and I found myself like over time just really retreating and really taking care of myself. And I don't wear an Apple Watch anymore because it would trigger me. It would trigger my anxiety. Yes.
I stopped see,
Yeah, yeah. So, I silence conversations. My phone is never on ring. It's always on vibrate. Always. It doesn't matter if I'm alone or if I'm with people, it's always on vibrate
yes.
because it does something to me. I'm already very busy. And I believe too that you have to really understand yourself inside and out. You have to understand, like Camille said, all of your triggers and all of the things that make you feel a certain way. So you have to be hyper aware of you so that you can be aware of everything else. And one of the things that I've noticed with myself is that I have something that's called inattentive ADD. And what that means is that I don't do well with distractions. It hurts my brain and it puts me in such a bad place. And it used to get to the point where it would feel like, when you have a band-aid over a scab and you pull the band-aid and, that horrendous feeling, that's how I would feel. And I would react to my environment in that way. So I've learned to cope with that and deal with it. And one of the things that I have to do now, because I no longer work basically by myself, I work with this amazing group of women, and there's a lot of stuff going on all the time. So I've had to learn to take a step back and really focus on me and say, you know what, I'm better off doing this thing than participating in that thing, because I know where I'm best suited and I know that I have to take care of this above everything else. So if this is not okay, nothing is going to be okay. So just think about what those things are for you and how it is that you can really look into the solutions that are causing some of the issues that you might be having in life. For example, Camille talked about being overweight. A lot of people in this country are overweight. Is it healthy? Absolutely not. Are they going to do something about it? Maybe one day, maybe not. But there's a lot more that goes along with that, because there's a lot of the times reasons why certain people are not able to lose the weight. I don't want to say willing, but just not able for psychological reasons and all of these things that come that you need to really dig in a little bit deeper. I mean, there are so many stories that I've heard from clients and even beyond that would make you cry, but it's not that kind of conversation today. But for you, really think about like, what is it that you are currently being held back from? Think about why that is. And the other day too, I was having a conversation with somebody about somebody consistently going into a bad relationship with someone. And even though she got kicked out a few times, she still went back. Like, what is it? It's not him, it's her. 100%. You got to take responsibility for your actions. So I said, well, what is it about her that has her continue to go back?
Mhm.
She has to dig deep there and answer that question for herself. So, what is it about you that you need to address, that you need to come to terms with in order to finally develop the mindset that will allow you to be healthier, to feel more vibrant, to have the great morning routine, to work out, to have the business? What is it about you that needs to change your way of thinking? How do you need to reframe things in order for you to move forward and be more focus on finding and reaching those goals and sitting back and wondering what if.
Oh, that was so powerful. And you know, Mary, the biggest thing that I've found with a lot of people that I've talked to, both men and women, you're exactly right. A lot of women and men who know they're unhealthy, well, that are unhealthy, know that they are. And it's not that they are lazy. It really isn't. And it could be a medical situation. But you know, the number one thing I've noticed is a reason is just because our brain loves simplicity. It loves knowing the norm. It loves being comfortable. It doesn't, it yes, it loves to be challenged, but when you put it in the comfort zone for too long, it's gonna stay there. It is so much easier to just go through a drive-through and get something to eat.
Yeah,
As
but it's
opposed
not it's not just that, Camille. I think that there's a reason why people do that
to-
because yeah, you can be lazy and one day and then get up and do the thing the next day. But there's a reason why a lot of people don't feel like sometimes they deserve to live a healthy life. They feel like maybe they're going to fail. There's that fear of failing too, and everybody's watching them. And then there's the deep-rooted issues too of trauma, past trauma, that whenever you see somebody who has an eating disorder or is really obese, there is a lot of trauma behind that.
Absolutely.
So a lot of people don't get the help that they need, so that's why I feel like it's important to kind of at least like give people that different thinking pattern because yeah, okay, it's not easy to get in shape. It's a lot of work. And if you have the opportunity to work with someone, if you have any opportunity, you know that the opportunity is going to come with work. It's not just going to be handed to you.
Yes.
So even with the best trainer, the best coach, you're still going to have to do the work. But ask yourself whether or not you're willing to do it. And even if you fall on your face a couple of times, as long as you get up, you got to have that mindset. That's why it's important. Like for us, Camille and I, we both work very deep on the mindset aspect of everything before we do anything else. And if you watch our previous video from last week,
Mhm.
you'll understand that everything, the foundation to everything is always mindset.
Yeah, and that's what I was alluding to. So what I was saying is that there's a lot of times that a lot of us get so the brain does like to stay in its comfort zone. And that's just how we are wired. Now, when we still get that first part of self-awareness and we really start to, it really is starts in our mind, just as Mary was just saying, is that yes, our when we don't build into our mindset, if we don't have a deeper burning why, a why that wakes you up in the morning, not just because it's summer, not just because it's a vacation, but a burning why. And if you don't really know what I'm talking about, I know one of us knows somebody who has had cancer or a family member that's had cancer. And that's all of a sudden that family member's unit, all of a sudden they want to eat healthy. We're going for walks. We're doing everything so that we could combat this cancer or to not have it. Now, what Mary and I are really trying to, not trying, we are bringing here is that now that we are aware that these things can or possibly happen, or let's not even let that peril happen. Let's change that mindset in the now. Let's change. Look at what is it that's holding you back. Exactly what Mary said. In order for us to really dig deep into what's holding us back, before we could even start with fitness and nutrition, that starts with a discussion as we are having today. Because a lot of times I've learned in this thing called life that I thought I resolved certain childhood trauma. And when I say childhood, I'm even talking about even my early adolescence trauma. And I didn't. And I wasn't. I was carrying it. It was dormant, but it wasn't until I had that training, until I had that realization, that understanding that I was in a jail I didn't even know I was locked in. It was just so comfortable. But once we start to realize that, and that's why it's important for us to understand that with wellness, it is something that we need to continuously work on. It is something that, yes, we could do it on our own, just like as if we could do like schooling, we could do it all on YouTube Versity. But at what pace, how many distractions and resistance are going to happen along the way? And that it's about really enjoying and experiencing the journey, so that when you there's never going to be an end to this journey until you meet your creator. And that's the whole point of wellness, is to have that self-awareness of every time you are getting back into that comfort zone, or anytime your body is you're even more triggered now from the feeling of your body, because the body does keep the score.
Yeah.
And once your body starts to transition into that healthier mode, there's a new addiction that comes. It's
Hmm.
that addiction to keep that peace, to keep that energy. It fires me up. When I start to feel, I'm so aware now, Mary, when I'm getting sluggish.
Yeah.
Right? I know. And I'll be honest, this is why I love our dynamic, Mary and myself. Mary is like a hardcore gym. And when I say hardcore, just because she loves her Zumba and she loves challenging her strengths. Like, ladies and gents, you gotta see her do some push-ups. Amazing. I love it. I love it. And then on the flip side, there's
Thank
Camille here, who absolutely loves fitness too. But I like fitness in challenges, meaning short term, little basic ones. But what it is what we're showing you is that it doesn't matter the type of
you.
body movement. It's all about keeping our body moving. And how we got to this part now is through that self awareness of our own selves, and that feeling that moving our body brings us the peace, the self awareness of when we need to go on do not disturb, and also the times that we want to be excited. There's power in having that positive attitude, and also being aware of when negativity comes your way, because it's always coming to you. It's always going to come. If you think you're going to avoid it, if you think you're going to, even Cinderella didn't avoid it. Let's just say one thing that Disney did not lie about: there's going to always be some form of peril, just like Aurora in the castle while she was sleeping. There was all the pines before the prince could come. There's always going to be a peril. But are you ready for the challenge? And how are you going to better align yourself to, so that next time that challenge does come, how are we going to go through it
Mhm.
in a shorter period of time? Not even the how. You're going to have that way. It's the
Yeah.
prize, right? So, Mary, like,
Yeah,
like
I'm wondering, like everybody who's watching right now, how many of you are really in tune with yourselves that you recognize right away? Because you said something very important, Camille, about the body keeping the score,
mhm,
and how a lot of the times logically we're like, okay, I'm trying to keep the best mindset here. I'm solution driven, not problem driven, but then the body still reacts. And because we have that second brain, we have our gut, we have our intuition, and you feel it like in the pit of your stomach. And that was me most of the day yesterday. And I felt it as soon as I woke up, and I was like, okay, did I eat something weird yesterday? But it was like the anxiety just going in. And you know how sometimes we feel anxiety in different ways in different parts of our body. So just think about that. Those of you who
mhm,
are watching, whether or not you're in tune, like, do you feel your palms getting a little sweaty? Do you feel like your breathing is a little too shallow? Do you feel like you can't uh, relax your shoulders, maybe a little tension headache, maybe that situation in your stomach or your back? So understand that, recognize that, and then ask yourself, okay, like, I caught it. Like, what made me feel this way? That's a great way for you to understand whether or not maybe it was a difficult conversation at work, or maybe something happened with one of the kids, or maybe you were running late and something threw you off, or
yeah,
maybe you have a relationship situation at home. And the thing is that a lot of the times we get used to operating from that space, and we don't want to do that because that's no. So instead, we want to make sure that we have harmony. We bring that harmony. We understand like which areas of our life need a little bit more attention, so that we can have that peace even when things don't necessarily go our way. We can still take that time and recognize and say, okay, I can take this time for myself and really just get back to my peaceful self, because life is still going to happen. Life is going
mhm,
to happen. All of these negative things are going to come. People are still going to be people. You can't change people, and we know that, Camille. Like, we can't do anything about other people.
mhm,
But the important thing is that we can still control the way that we think and the way that we react to things. And a lot of the times that reaction has to come from a place of proaction. We have to really understand who we are, so we can take a step back and they're like, okay, I feel a little bit better now. I can face the world. I can talk to people. I can be myself again. I can show my face. But until then, you really just focus on you and understanding yourself at a deeper level. And that's, I believe, the very first step always in moving forward with the things that you say you're going to do, those commitments. And
mhm.
even after you say you're going to do them, there's still going to be times when you're not able to do them consistently. But as long as you continue to try, you will eventually develop that consistency. And I saw a picture somebody posted online. I don't remember when. Maybe it was you, Camille, but it was kind of
Mhm.
like one of those statistic bars, the like little buildings, like bars, rectangles, and they were up, they were down, they were up, down, all the way down, all the way up. And for a lot of people, that's what consistency looks like.
Yeah.
Even if you're moving a little bit in the right direction, it doesn't have to be a massive leap. Even if you're moving a little bit, it's still consistency. It's still you trying. It's still
Yes.
you moving forward. It's still
Yeah, the
momentum.
power of consistency is how we build up repetition and how we ultimately change habits. But we have to understand with consistency, we also require another trait, which is called patience and understanding and forgiveness. And the forgiveness has to come within ourselves because a lot of times when we're building on ourselves, we could be consistent and then life happens and we fall off track and then we blame. We start going to name blame on our own selves and it completely changes our whole mindset and there goes a consistency on the wayside. And that's why it's so important for us to understand that we can go, as I always say, we can do everything alone, but this is why we do what we do. Just as you were talking, Mary, you're always alluding back to that self-awareness through triggers. What are the triggers? Now that you're aware of your own triggers, whether it be mentally, spiritually, or physically, you're going to be more susceptible to go back to what you desire, to actually put some attention to that trigger and create that resolution or that pivot that's required. Just as a lot of people think journaling is just fluff or we're just talking about our day, but in actuality, journaling is a great activity and a practice to help build up your own self awareness, your own understanding, your own release of your inner. Because so much times we're so caught up on that exterior. Just as I said, so many people think confidence goes in the clothes that you wear. And confidence is truly built within and it's really celebrating the journey. But in order for you to celebrate that journey, we need to take note and be aware. And journaling is a great way for us to reflect. It's a great way of reflection, a great way for us to remind us of our greatness, as well as a great way for us to release when we need to release. And most importantly, for me, journaling has not only allowed me to do everything I said, but it also allows me to paint pictures in my mind when stories are being told that help harmonize my own mindset and the conversation discussion. Like what I mean, for example, is when Mary said harmony, the first thing I thought about was like, she's so right. Every composer, what are the people, that's the composer, right? The guy with the thingamajigger or the gal.
Conductor.
There you go.
That's the
See, yes, I love
conductor.
you. You know me. I make up my own stuff. You gotta love me. So the conductor. But if you notice, the conductor, every part of the orchestra has its pieces, has its places, has its
Yep.
purpose. They're all diverse. They don't look the same. They don't sound the same. But when they come into unison, they come together. And who is the leader of all of them? The conductor. The conductor. So
Yeah.
what I mean by that is when I visualized when Mary was talking, I was like, ding 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 ding. A trigger that came to me is
Hmm.
I am the conductor of my own life. I'm going to have so many
That's
things
right.
that happen in life from my children, from my career, from my finances, from my husband. Ugh, I do. It drives me
Hmm.
crazy though. My dog, everything else in between, all have moving parts in my life. And it's up to me to be the conductor of where they align and where they go so that they can all come together and
Yes.
harmonize. Because my true essence in life
Mhm.
is to continuously build on that feeling and that crave that I have of peace. In order to have that peace, we have to
Yeah.
go in harmony, but we also have to be aware that sometimes during that play, a trumpet may, a string may be popped. It doesn't. We're aware of that.
Yeah. But that's true, Camille. Now that you're mentioning it, like if you picture a room full of wonderful instruments and you throw a bunch of kids in there that have never played instruments, it's
Yes.
going to sound horrendous. But now you bring a group of teenagers or young adults to play the instruments and they play beautifully. So, what's the difference there? The difference
Right.
is the experience, the amount of time that sometimes it takes to be able to play all of those instruments. And if you think about it, Camille, you are playing the oboe, you are playing the
Clarinet.
I don't know, the trumpet, the triangle, you're playing the bassoon, everything, the clarinet, the saxophone, all of these things. You are the one playing each instrument. And that's the way, like, I'm very big on visualization. And to me, I see it as sometimes when you're out of sync, out of harmony, it's like all of these different parts of you playing all of these instruments, because that's what it is. One day you're a mom, the next moment you are a business owner, then you have to be a wife, and then you have to be, a partner, you have to be a community leader, all of these things. So each of these things make up who we are. And when each one of those aspects of our lives are not properly nurtured and fulfilled, that's when things begin to fall out of whack. So that's why we are having this series, because wellness is all about everything and every aspect of our life, our fitness, our relationships. We're going to be talking about finances later too, later on in the series. So think about that. If you thrust all of your personalities into the symphony room and you have all those instruments there, are all those personalities going to be able to play beautifully? Or is one of them going to be like,
And that's where that's I
bang,
love that.
like,
And the growth that you said, I love that you use that analogy of the children versus the teens and that growth. But we also have to give ourselves that grace that when the kids go in there, bang, bang, boom, and they break a string, oh, I'm sorry. Don't feel ashamed. Don't sit in that broken space. But create that solution. Give yourself some grace and understand that, yes, that's a part of the journey. Never do we tell our children, you know what, Christian, you're not good at this walking thing, when he's 1 year old. I think you should just
right.
crawl for the rest of your life. Let's stick to that. No, we're always evolving, we're always growing. So we have to give ourselves grace in our journeys that, yes, we're going to fall. This too shall pass. If we don't have that constant infinite eight, where, yes, there's going to be some highs, celebrate it, but no, this too shall pass. There's going to be some lows, celebrate it as a lesson. Take it as a lesson. This too shall pass. Just keep it in constant motion and celebrate that journey and really see that the biggest reward you can give yourself is to not ever give up and know that there's going to be times where you're challenged. There's going to be times where you're feeling like you're in that runt. But as you build up that self-awareness, when you build it up, when you develop it, yes, you can't control everything around you, especially with nowadays. I don't know about y'all, but the way all these grapes are being charged in groceries, I guess I'm stuck on the grapes. Anybody knows me knows I've been talking about these damn grapes for the last month, because it's still mind-boggling that grapes are $9. But that's what it is, right? But am I dwelling on it? No, I'm just making a joke of it. But what I mean by that is life is going to continue to change. It's going to challenge us, especially in the financial area. But when we start hounding down and getting back down to source, be able to, just like Mary said, visualize what we want our overall outcome to be, we will understand that this too shall pass. These grapes are not always going to be there's $1 million. This too shall pass. And that's what I've really been practicing in my morning routine is that, as I visualize, I'm not just visualizing what my life and getting into the feeling and into the emotion. What I'm doing is I am visualizing myself in a movie theater. Of course, if you know me, I love my popcorn, eating my popcorn, and on the screen is the story of that I'm printing out. So I'm watching everything that I desire, and I'm getting into the feeling that picture is allowing me as a viewer feel. And when I've been getting into these feelings, it has really been better aligning me for that day. And it also given me a greater excitement that, yeah, this too shall pass, both will. But it's all about having that self-awareness, that understanding, giving ourselves that grace and forgiveness, and knowing that a positive attitude isn't just, you can do it, yay, yay. I know so many people get so annoyed at that, like hearing all the time, oh my gosh, here she goes being Miss Positive Patty. But yeah,
Yeah, that's called toxic positivity.
that part. Thank you. Can you
Mhm.
can you can you talk on that, please, Mary? Because I was
Yeah.
exactly what I was going to say about that. Because we need to be very aware of toxic positivity, and I wanted to bring that up as we're closing up this room, because we do run this room for about 40. What am I talking about? 12:30 to 1:30 every Tuesdays, Eastern. Oh my gosh, let's just do this all over again. Every Tuesdays on all of our socials, Mary and I will bring to you this series called "The Busy Wellness for Busy Women in the Business." You know what I'm talking about. At 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are doing a wellness series that's going to touch on all different areas of wellness, from our mindset to fitness, of course, our finances, understanding about those back to school times and how we're getting back into a routine and working in that self-care, self-love into the routine.
Yep.
There's going to be so many areas. So what I just said to Mary, well, I was just alluding to, and Mary just answered it, and I want her to really touch on it, is I know you're hit with so much times of this positive attitude. Oh, positivity. You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
water boy. After a while, it does become toxic
Mm-hmm.
if done incorrectly. And this is what Mary's going to talk about right now. This is a great conversation right here. Let's
Yeah,
go.
there's actually a whole podcast episode that I recorded on toxic positivity.
Mhm.
So if you're interested in that episode, definitely let me know. Send me a message and I'll send you to it. Or otherwise, it's podcast.marymassey.com.
And you know
And
what,
you'll
better? I'm going
find.
to do one step more. Mary, I'm going to challenge you when this is over.
Yeah,
Put the link for your podcast
yeah, yeah.
into
Mhm.
the comments.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll do. Yeah. So basically that's it, because there are going to be times, like we said before, when you're not going to feel your best and you're going to talk to somebody about what's going on, and that person is going to try you to get out of feeling that way.
Mm,
And you can't just flip the switch and all of a sudden you're feeling good. There's a process to it. And sometimes we neglect to go through the motions of really acknowledging why it is that we feel a certain way, where it's coming from. Because a lot of the times, let me tell you, my daughter suffers from anxiety.
mhm,
She's had really bad episodes. I know people who are depressed in my family. Both my sister and my niece are technically clinically depressed and on medication. So to for me as a coach, as somebody who loves them, to be like, oh, okay, just snap out of it. Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. That is incredibly toxic and incredibly detrimental and hurtful when the person is going through these things, because there is something inside of them, whether it's chemically or just plain emotionally, that we kind of have to figure out. If it's chemical, then okay, then you can do something about that. But you can also do a lot if it's just an emotional situation that you're going through. And the first step there is understanding, again, where it's coming from. What can
mhm,
you do? And like I said earlier, when I feel the anxiety, sometimes I feel it in my chest, but yesterday I felt it in the pit of my stomach, and it was weird. When I talk to clients sometimes and they're going through the motions of the anxiety, like, okay, let's close the eyes and let's think about where it is that you are feeling it. Put your hands where it's coming from. For a lot of people, it's here. For a lot of people, it's their tummy. It depends on where it is. So it's important to acknowledge that before we go drumming in the positivity on people. And when you're feeling down, to be looking at all this stuff, it can be toxic for you too. So just turn away from it. Turn away from social media. Go
mhm,
watch something on Netflix if you must. But also, if you are in a good space mentally where you're going through something that you're not happy about, that is hurtful, maybe a breakup, allow yourself to be, but give it an expiration date.
mm,
Okay, so think about that. Think about the fact that you can say, okay, I'm going to give myself the day, that I'm going to go to bed tonight, and tomorrow I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best to feel better. You're
mhm.
not going to say, oh, I'm going to feel like $100, because sometimes it takes a little bit longer than that. So steer clear from those type of people who want to change you right away when you talk to them, and they're all of a sudden trying to find the solution to your problem. What if you just want to be heard? What if you just want to be understood? What if you just need a hug, somebody to hold you? And that's another thing too, because we neglect to understand that a lot of things that we go through as adults are unresolved issues that we had when we were kids. And sometimes those issues can be as simple as just needing attention, needing a hug, needing somebody to sit there and say, you know what, it's going to be okay. I'm here for you. You want to just sit and be quiet? I'll sit and be quiet with you. That's it. So that also goes into that emotional intelligence, because we see people that are going through these things, and it's just not just about our own awareness of ourselves, but also the awareness that we have of those around us and how it is that we can best serve them. Because if we are in a good place, then we should be able to kind of help steer them out of that space, or at least help them to understand that they're not alone in the way that they feel. And with everything that's going on, it's important to be there for as best as we can for people who need us.
I love that. I love that because you know what, Mary, a lot of us, have a lot of people. A lot of the times, the positive attitudes or like that positive patties coming from people that actually love us. It is usually people that are very close to us that don't want to see us in pain. So like,
Right.
oh, snap out or oh, fix it. But in actuality, what we should be doing is understanding that feeling, understanding those triggers, our own selves, so we can better navigate and direct. And just like you said, a lot of the times it could have just been from a simple result, from a simple hug, a simple,
Yeah.
you got this, or just a,
It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to see people that we love hurting. We don't want to see
absolutely.
that. So but again, it's we don't want to see that. You know what I mean? So,
Take the we and really look at the person that's
yeah.
forefront. And another activity that I do with some of my clients, I'm going to massacre the name because Mary, I can barely speak English. I'm on day 202 on Duolingo in Spanish, and I can barely speak that too. Just saying. But there's another technique that I love to do with my clients. It's called the Pomodoro technique. If you're
Mhm.
familiar with it, you could correct me. But it's all about really understanding how to get that straightforward productivity. Because a lot of times when we're feeling depressed or stressed or the anxiety is high, is because just as we're talking about the orchestra, instead of having it play in unison, we're thinking about every individual part and piece that we
Yeah.
are feeling chaotic and feeling like nothing is getting done. But
Yeah.
with the Pomodoro technique, it is a way, it's a teaching of how you can really hound down in little 25-minute intervals on
Oh,
one task at a time. One task at a time. Choose one task and you want to get done. This is a great way to also eradicate procrastination. But what it does do is when you are able to put on the blinders and focus on one task at hand, you can also determine, is this a task that is bringing you that stress just
hmm
by the productivity in that
yeah.
25-minute time. Instead of spending the whole day under just doing this, wandering, pondering, focus on one task. Put a timer on there. 20 minutes, no distraction. Turn off your phones, it's just like Mary said.
D&D, baby, D&D.
Yeah, DND it. And then take a 5-minute break and then try do it again for another 15 minutes. And what it's doing is that is allowing you to have that center clear, what is it called? Laser focus on that one task at hand. And what I love about this is while you're doing that focus on task at hand, just as Mary was talking about with the positive Patty, and basically what we've been talking about as a whole, it is allowing us to better understand the feeling that we're getting as we're doing that one task. Is it triggering? Is it fulfilling? Is it
Mhm.
allowing you after the 25 minutes go, oh my gosh, I got so much done. Thank you. Or is it saying to yourself, this is not where I need to be? But giving yourself this time, this little bit of a task to do, really not only, again, allows you to complete that task, it allows you to better redirect yourself if this task is a waste of time in the first place. And why are we putting it into our orchestra, confusing us and stressing us out? Maybe that's the one component, that one instrument that needs to be replaced, that needs a new piece of wood on their little saxophone thingy. But we just didn't take the time because there was so much noise going on around us. So that's another activity. There's I'm full of mindset activities because with what I do with We Got This, again, it's yes, there's fitness and nutrition, but I'm all about that mindset because the reason I even started my business is because of my mindset. I had all those same things that you were talking about, Mary, that your sister or that I was diagnosed with clinical depression. They said chemical depression,
Mhm.
anxiety, put me on Paxil. I lost my period, not because I disliked myself, but because I forgot to eat because I was too busy being depressed and sleeping.
Mhm.
All of these things. And I'm telling you, it was one day I just woke up and I was like, Camille, let's just let's see what's going on with Camille after all the doctors and everything else that was going on. But I also had an amazing mentor that really talked to me, not as a positive Patty, talked to me. And one day I was never ever asked, Camille, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Mhm.
Instead, I was like, why are you feeling this way? You should be fine. Snap
Right.
out of it. You're good. You have everything going for you. You're beautiful. You're outgoing. So what did Camille do? I put a mask on my face when I was outside. I was extra funky, extra bubbly, but inside I was crying. But it wasn't until
Mhm.
I had that mentor, that teacher, that guide that just asked me one day, how are you? How are you doing? It was like, then I realized that it does come, wellness really does start in the mindset. It
Yep.
starts with aligning and understanding that there is a greater being than the external. We're so clouded by what we see visually that we are distracting ourselves from the beauty of within. And that's where wellness starts. When it comes to our finances, that is a material that allows us to have opportunities and options in this physical world, but it does not define us.
Mhm.
When it becomes motherhood, that is a blessing and glory that some of us get to experience. And even if we don't get to experience it, just being alive and being the essence of the women that we are is a blessing and glory. But that also doesn't define us. And I learned that from the Barbie movie. I'm just saying. What defines us is how we see ourselves
Right.
internally, how we are better aware of what Mary was talking about, our intuition, our own inner guides. Don't allow, and there's nothing around you. It's like I was listening to this podcast last night, and they were saying how, Mandela was in jail for 27 years. But was he in jail? They may have locked away his body, but his mind was always free. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why in those 27 years that he was in this physical jail, he was still able to move mountains, able to come out with that tenacity, with that humanity, with that peace and glory and love, because his mind was always free. And he successfully proved to himself first and the world that we truly can move mountains and change the world when we take control of ourselves first.
Mm-hmm.
That's Mike. Just say
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So those of you who are still watching us, do you have any questions that we can answer for you? Because we are winding down. It's a busy day, and we want to make sure that we respect your time and also each other's time here. So let me take a look at the comments. Feel free to ask any questions and whether or not this resonated with you. And if you are still watching and you came in a little late, feel free to share. Send this off to somebody. Come back and rewatch the entire replay because there's a lot of great information on here that we shared with you. And we want to make sure that you have a great foundation as we move forward to the rest of our series. And next week, I believe we are going to be talking about.
Girl, I was about to say to you, I hope that you know because I completely forget right now, but it's going to be a good one.
Oh, we're supposed to, yeah, we're supposed to be talking about nutrition next week.
Ooh.
So that's always a big one. That's a big one that everybody gets hung up on, the whole meal prepping. I don't know what to cook, I don't know what to eat, picky eaters, etc.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a great topic to dive into. So make sure that you join us for that. So with that, Camille, I think that we are just message us if you have any questions, if you want to learn a little bit more about what we're doing, and we'll take it from there.
Don't forget to connect with us because we are going to be doing this for the next few weeks and it's going to be exciting. And when we're talking about nutrition too, it's exciting because for myself, and I know a lot of my clients are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to eat kale chips for the rest of my life. I'm Caribbean. I'm from Africa. I'm Mediterranean. I get everything else they want. I'm like, oh, why are we even putting the culture in it? That's okay. What we do is we're going to better understand food, and then we put it to the taste that we like it by understanding the dynamics of the food itself. So I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to continuing on this conversation. Because yes, we are talking about wellness, and yes, it's mindset and nutrition. But again, we said, there's going to be so much more, such as finances, relationships, and everything else in between, lifestyles, everything else in between. But what's key is you showing up for yourself. And today, whether it be live or on the repeat, definitely, we also love the best way that you could give back to Mary and myself is to give back to others and pay it forward by sharing this live to anybody else that I know would benefit from hearing this amazing understanding of how we can overcome so many challenges in our life when we have a better understanding and awareness of our attitude. And when we have that better understanding and awareness of our attitude, we're better at navigating and directing it. It's like I just saw this last quote, and I'll leave it here because I'm a quote queen, and I'm going to probably massacre the quote while I'm at it. I'm a quote queen, but I also massacre them. But neurons that are fired together are wired together. And what that means is through consistency, through repetition, through showing up for yourself, through challenging yourself, you're going to build up a greater sense of self through your mindset. Because we're building on our neurons by consistently showing up and doing the work. So we look forward to seeing you all next week. The same place, same time. Wellness for the busy woman in business. Every Tuesdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're streaming on all of our socials. Again, make sure to share this out. Can't wait to see you all every single week. And most importantly, remember that you hold the keys to everything that you desire. And Mary and I are here as guides to really get you excited and take action on your wellness. So with that, Mary, I don't know if you have anything else to say, but
no, that is it. Thank you everybody for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Alrighty. Ciao.